Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's job search coaching call here. Normally, I have my partner, Gaurav Villani. However, today it's just going to be me. He unfortunately has a fever, but we are going to dive right in. Guys, let me know. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me, that you guys can see me, all of that good stuff. So that would be awesome. It looks like we are live now. So if you guys can see and hear me, just let me know. I can see it on my end. I can hear it on my end. But we have gone 20, 30 minutes in the past sometimes and then found out folks could not hear us. So just let me know down below. And then as I mentioned in the description here, the goal of today is to really help folks, anybody who is a job seeker right now or considering becoming a job seeker or just wants to prepare. Their company's a little bit rocky. Doug, thank you so much. The goal of this little workshop that we're doing here, a little Q&A, is to share with you guys the exact step-by-step process that our clients have been using to land job interviews in June. I know there's a lot of myths out there that things are dead in the summer and companies are putting a lot of things, on hold. There are still a ton of opportunities out there. And I know this because my calendar is booked with interview preps for our clients. So what I'm going to do today, I'll share my screen here in just a minute. And I am going to share with you guys, and this is a free resource. Y'all will get this at the end, or I can drop the link right in the comments for you guys. And we are going to walk through the steps for you to land interviews. Now, I'm going to share my screen here, hopefully in just a second. And I'm going to kind of I'm breaking all the rules here. There's no, hooks here. There's nothing overly exciting. We are going to just go into like the nitty gritty tactical. I'm going to give you guys an overview of the steps here and then we'll dive in. So first thing that we're going to do is make sure, and actually we're going to skip a step, arguably the most important step, don't get me wrong. We're going to interweave step one throughout this process. Where we're really going to start here is making sure that you are going after the right role at the right company for you. I'm going to walk you through how to have a high converting resume, a high converting LinkedIn profile, so that you have recruiters and hiring managers, when they look at your profile, when they look at your resume, they say, man, this is somebody that I need to talk to. Doug, yes, need to get him on a call. Martin, yes, need to get him on a call. And then we're going to walk through, okay, we don't want to just sit there and wait for folks to reach out to us. We want to have some sort of lever that we can pull to land interviews. And so we use a method, or our clients use a method called proactive outreach. So I'm going to walk you through that as well. And if at any point you guys have any questions, maybe I didn't explain something super clear, or you just have a follow-up or a tangent question, just let me know and we can cover those as well. And hopefully I can be signed in here. So, all right, let's dive in. So as I mentioned, first thing that we're going to start with here is going to be making sure you have found you're targeting one role, the right role for you, and you have everything you need or you've got some background information to know that you're choosing the right thing. So first and foremost, for those of you who are on the job market right now, and I just got a couple of private messages here, I do appreciate you guys. Yes, I will answer your questions at the end. Just hang on tight here. So when you are trying to figure out what is the right role for you, we do something called career mapping. And what that means is essentially making sure that you know what we call your M&M store is. And when we talk about your M&M store, and actually I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick so that I don't ruin it for you guys. When we talk about your M&M store, what that means is, let's just pretend hypothetically you live in Los Angeles, California, or you live in San Diego, California. It's beautiful there most of the year. And I tell you, hey, I want you to get in your car, not use the GPS at all, and I want you to drive to New York. Most of you are reasonably intelligent human beings, and okay, if I just drive east and a little north, I'm probably going to get to New York eventually. Now, Are you going to take the fastest route? Are you going to be able to avoid, traffic jams and all of that? Probably not. But will you end up in New York? Probably. Now, where in New York are you going to end up? Let's pretend it is December and you happen to end up in Buffalo, New York. It's like, okay, now I don't know a whole lot of people that like to be in the winter season up in Buffalo. But again, technically you got your goal. Technically you made it to New York. Even if you made it to a bad part of town in the city or whatever the case may be, you still hit your goal of going to New York, but you're not super happy. This happens all the time in people's careers. They'll say, hey, I want to get to XYZ. Hey, I want to get to this level. Hey, I want this thing. But what they don't realize is that thing is really vague. Now, let's take a step back here. And again, let's pretend you're in LA or in San Diego. And I say, hey, I want you to drive to the M&M store in downtown Manhattan, and you can use your GPS. Well, now, if you're like me, you're probably going to pull up Waze right away. I like Waze because it tells me where the cops are, and I sometimes have a heavy foot. And it's going to allow me to avoid traffic jams. It's going to give me the option to take the fastest route possible to get directly to the M&M store in downtown Manhattan. Now, how will I know that I got there other than looking at my GPS and saying, hey, you made it there? Well, I'm going to see something like this as soon as I get there that tells me, hey, I made it here. Now, the beauty of this is when we apply this to our career, it's the exact same thing. We don't want to aim for New York, or we don't want to aim for the East Coast, God forbid. We want to find and define your M&M store so we know exactly where you want to end up. Now, that's not based on just your professional life. When we're working with clients to figure out what their M&M store is, we want to know, hey, what are your personal goals? What does the best version of you look like? And how do we build your career in a way that it supports your personal life? And when we do that properly, what ends up happening is people suddenly don't care quite as much about a title. They don't care quite as much about, making 320,000 versus 280,000, whatever the case may be. They start really looking at what we call work-life harmony, where it's, hey, in order for me to be the best version of myself, the best mom or the best husband or the best dad or the best wife, whatever, it is for you, in order for me to be that, this is what my career needs to look like. So that's always where we start. We want to know, hey, what is your M&M store, or what is your career nirvana? Where is it that you want to end up going? And what is the best next role to get you there? So as I mentioned, I'm going to share this resource if it would be helpful for you guys as we go through this. There's some questions in here. There's some frameworks in here so that you can think through and identify what that best next role is for you. Something that I want to state very, very emphatically before we move on here. If you skip this process and you're not sure what the best next role is for you, there is a very, very good chance that you are going to struggle to market yourself. There's a good chance that you are going to struggle to get interviews. There's a really good chance you're going to struggle to articulate your strengths and your values to a company. It's really, really tricky for you to be able to do those things without getting really clear on just one specific role. So if there's any follow-up questions on that, just let me know. Otherwise, I want to roll right into what most people tend to obsess about, which is going to be, hey, I know this right role for me. Now, how do I make sure I have the right resume? How do I make sure I have a good LinkedIn profile? So once you know your role, once you know, hey, let's just say, for example's sake, I know I want to be, a chief product officer one day, or I know I want to be a principal customer success manager, like customer success. I know I just want to be an individual contributor somewhere. I don't enjoy leadership. Doesn't matter what your end goal is. Doesn't matter what you're aiming for. So long as we know what we're aiming for, then we're going to pick the one next role. Either it's something that is one role, it's usually one level above, sometimes it's two levels above, sometimes it's one level back. If you're, we've had plenty of C-suite folks that come to us and say, hey, this was great. I actually want to be there for my family though. And this role that I'm in right now doesn't really allow me to have the life, doesn't really allow me to, build a life that I'm really proud of. And so I'm being really intentional about my career, and I would like to take a step back. I would like to do this. That's perfectly fine. Nobody can tell you, hey, this is right or wrong. I would say the only thing that is right or wrong is selling yourself short and thinking, oh, I've never had that title, so I can't do that. We'll go through that in a second. But once you have, okay, this is the one role for me, the next step that we do is we are going to research what it is that recruiters and hiring managers are searching for that role. So let's just say, for example's sake, you would like to be a senior program manager, senior project manager. That's the next role for you. What a recruiter or a hiring manager is going to care about are very few specific things. How do you know what those things are? Well, they list them on the job descriptions. So before you write your resume, before you write your LinkedIn profile, what I highly, highly recommend doing is taking some time to research 10 to 20, 15 or so job descriptions for the role that you're interested in. Now, if you were to look at, again, senior project manager, senior program manager, I'm going to give you guys a hack. We do have some hacks for some of these, and we'll share these afterwards for anybody who's interested in it. If you were to go and study these job descriptions, you would see really quickly that recruiters and hiring managers only care about a couple of things. They want to know, how many projects and programs have you managed? Any that are simultaneous is even a bonus there. What were the budgets that you managed? How many projects were you able to deliver ahead of schedule and under budget? What were the different cross-functional teams that you worked with? Were you creating project documents? Did you gather requirements? Did you run Scrum meetings? These are pretty much the only things that that recruiters and hiring managers care about when they're looking at project program manager candidates. So what we do, if we know, okay, these are the most important things, these are some of the keywords that they're going to be searching for. Again, how do I know this? Well, I know this because I've gone and I've read through 15 or so project program manager job descriptions, and I found the commonalities. I studied those. Now, the next step that we're going to do here, as I mentioned, is build out both your LinkedIn profile, your resume. The way we do it, they mirror each other. They're one and the same. So what we'll do is we will use these keywords to build out a resume. So if you notice, this is just going to be this is an example of a project program manager resume. We have a couple of parts here that are dedicated to just highlighting or emphasizing what recruiters and hiring managers care about. So in the summary section here, and this is where I recommend everybody does this. I know there's some people on here like, wait a second. I thought I was signing up to figure out how to get interviews. Like, this is a resume. Yes, in order for you to get interviews in this market, you have to have some sort of marketing out there, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, that when a recruiter, when a hiring manager glances at it, I'm using that word very intentionally here because they are only going to spend a couple of seconds on your resume. You need to make sure you have something that is not going to disqualify you from the interview process. That's really the only goal of the resume. Resume in this job market is never going to be the thing that gets you the job. It's never going to be the thing that gets you the interview, even most cases, but it can prevent you from getting a conversation. So we do want to make sure that when somebody checks you out on LinkedIn or when somebody looks at your resume, it's very clear that you can answer the questions of, well, in the case of a project program manager, this is going to be a little bit different for everybody. So you want to very quickly answer these questions, not to confuse anybody, but this is going to be different. So like if you were customer success, what is a customer success or what is a recruiter or hiring manager going to care about there? It's going to be looking at your ARR. How much did you manage? What are the NPS? What are the CSAT scores? Were you able to maintain? Were you able to increase? Were you able to improve those with churn? Were you able to maintain or reduce or improve churn? Upsells, were you able to increase upsell opportunities? Every single role has something really specific or has a few really specific things that recruiters and hiring managers are going to care about. So back to the original example here. If we're looking at a project program manager resume, you'll see very simply, and this is what catches up or trips up a lot of folks, is they think they need to start with themselves. They think, okay, I have to make a list of everything that I've done. I've got to talk about all the great things that I've done. When the reality is 90+% of your resume is going to come from these job descriptions that you have studied. So if you see here, all of this is what is repeated multiple times across multiple job descriptions for project program manager resumes. You'll see same things that we have listed up here. Hey, here are some of the important things. These are the things I'm proficient in. Hey, we care about you being able to manage projects and programs at a certain budget and being able to complete them ahead of schedule under budget. We want to make sure that you can lead, high performing cross-functional teams. And we want to know how many years of experience you have. Very, very simple. The only things that came not from the job description here are the number of years. So that's got to be, of course, unique to you. What the budgets are. It's very unlikely that your exact budgets that you've managed are also 700K to 5.5. And then percentage of projects that you've been able to complete ahead of schedule and under budget. Those are the most important things there. Now, again, this is not the most important things for every single role. This is the most important things to put in your summary if you are going after project program, senior program manager roles. Similar to if it's customer success, you're going to use the things that they really care about here. So what did we say they cared about? ARR, whether you maintain, grew, all of that good stuff, churn, your CSAT or NPS scores, along with your your ability to upsell folks and increase those opportunities. So what do? Over X amount of years or 10 plus years, this is unique to you. The rest of this is just the keywords that they care about right here. How many folks you managed, what was the ARR that you managed, what was the retention rate, what was the average CSAT, like all of that is really, really clearly written so that when a recruiter or a hiring manager looks at your profile, looks at your resume, they say, man, I really need to talk to this person. They have everything that I'm looking for here. So I'm going to pause real quick. I know there's a little bit of a lag here based on some of the messages I'm getting on the side, but let me know if this is making sense to you guys before we get to what I like to call the meat and potatoes of things here, where once you have these two things in place, you know exactly what role you're going after, and you have a resume, you have a LinkedIn profile that speaks to that one role. Once you have that, then we can get to the good stuff, or the meat and potatoes if you're very Irish, as I am. So I'll give you guys a second to just let me know if this is making sense, if there's any follow-up questions on picking the right role or your resume. And then what I'm going to do, appreciate you, Doug. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into what I would argue for a lot of folks can become the most fun aspect of your job search, which is what we call proactive outreach. So once this is in place, the very next step for you to focus on is going to be getting interviews and putting out messages that get you interviews, I should say. So I'm going to share my screen again. If I surveyed the folks who are listening, we don't have usually folks will catch the replay of this more than they catch it live. If I were to ask everybody, if I could see you, to raise your hands and say, hey, how many of you have ever gotten messages like this, where you send in an application, and once you send in your application, you get a response that says, hey, it wasn't a match this time. Hey, so sorry, thank you so much for taking the time to apply, but we're super inspired by you, but this is never easy. We're going in a different direction. Or, hey, thank you so much for your interest. Unfortunately, we're not moving forward. If I was able to see you guys right now, I'd just say, hey, raise your hand. Who's gotten messages like this? Pretty much any job seeker on the market right now is getting messages like this. Why? Well, even if you have the bee's knees of a resume, even if it is perfectly keyword optimized, you have everything on there that they are looking for, still your most resumes are converting, or most online applications, they're converting at 0.5% to best case scenario is 2%. So what does that mean? For you to have one conversation, you need to send in 50 to 200 applications. That's a lot of applications, if you ask me. And still, you're either going to not hear anything, or you're going to get something like this 98 to 99.5% of the time. I don't know about you, but that would make me a little bit disheartened, quite frankly. And I would be really angry and probably really upset with a lot of things, not only in my job search, but my life as a whole. So this is not the process that we want to use to get interviews. Plot twist here. Instead, we want to proactively, oh, there's a couple folks. Yes, this is 100%. I have the only message. Everyone who applied, this is what they're getting. Yes, almost everyone who applies. Yes, those stats are crazy. Agreed. And if anybody on here who is watching is smart enough to know how to fix the entire system, please send me a message. I would absolutely love to speak with you and help in any way that I can. To be frank, I am not smart enough to know how to fix the entire system of the job search process right now. However, what we have found out, and this is very, very big kudos to Gaurav Villani, the founder of Career Sprout. If he was on here right now, I'm sure he would love/hate. I don't even know if he's able to watch this right now. He is very sick at the moment. But he created, or he started to recognize that the folks who get interviews, and this was back, gosh, this wasn't even in a bad market that this was the case. This is true in employee-driven markets. This is true in employer-driven markets. It doesn't matter. What he started to recognize was the people who got interviews very rarely actually applied for that role. Instead, what was happening was there were people who, whether they knew somebody in the company or not, that didn't even really matter. What mattered was that they were reaching out to influential people at companies that were hiring, or they were reaching out to the people that actually had a say in who got an interview. And so what he did was he started to recognize this. And now to give him some credit, he's a pretty smart guy, to say the least. For any of you who know his backstory, he was one of the youngest executives ever at a publicly traded company. He was their VP of talent, and he just started noticing the differences between the people who made it and the people who didn't. He started taking note of that. He started documenting those things. And what he's done over the last, gosh, what is it? We're in 2004 now. So what he's done over the last 8 years is he has continued to collect the messages. He's continued to collect the tactics that convert best for folks. So when we talk about proactive outreach, step one is we are going to reach out to these people. Now, some of you, I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. When we talk about influential people, who that is are the hiring managers, the senior leaders, or the executives, the people who work at companies that you admire. Most of them you will not know before you send them a message, but some of them, like past colleagues, past managers, alumni who went to the same university as you, some of them you may know. So what we do, once we have identified some of these influential people, step two is creating a very specific message for that person. This is a message that you could only send to that person. Now, again, if everybody was live, there wasn't a delay here, and you can still actually put this in the chat. I'd be curious. How many people have gotten a message from a recruiter that says, hey, Matt, or hey, Renette, hey, Doug, whoever, I saw your impressive background, and I think you'd be a great fit for this entry-level software developer role, or this, insert role that clearly has nothing to do with your background, is not relevant to you whatsoever, and it is very, very clear that they just sprayed this out to 10,000 other people. How many of you guys have gotten a message like that and appreciated it? Probably nobody. Usually what happens when you get those messages that have not been crafted to you, it's like a pit in the stomach feeling where it's like, F you, like I'm way beyond this. Did you not take 2 seconds to look at my background? And your ego gets hit a little bit. The other thing that happens is some people, they'll question and they'll be like, what the heck? Like, is that what I'm giving off? That I want an entry-level developer role? Like, what the heck is happening right now? The reality of that is one of two things is usually happening. One is they put you in their system wrong, and you're getting messages that you were tagged and you weren't tagged properly in their system. So we have had folks get interviews because all they do is they simply politely respond to that email and say, hey, thank you so much, first name. This looks like a great opportunity for an entry-level developer. However, I'm looking for chief technology or senior program manager role, whatever the case may be. More than happy to chat if you have any of those roles available. Now, what happens? Just that one message. So you take somebody's mistake and you send them a very kind message. There have been plenty of entry-level recruiters or folks who put the wrong tagging system in that say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Lori. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, Robert. You were tagged in our system wrong. We actually have a CMO role available at company XYZ. Would love to chat to you about that. Or we have this senior program manager role, insert whatever the case may be. I've seen that happen time and time again. Now, the other thing that happens is this person is actually just very not good at their job and they don't care, and it's just a quantity, it's just a numbers game for them. That's all they care about. So they will ignore your message and probably send you 18 other messages saying the exact same thing because they didn't bother to take you out of their CRM, or they're just not the brightest bulb in the bunch. It doesn't really matter what the case is. But the crazy part about this is I have seen and I have received a ton of messages from job seekers who do the exact same thing. They say, hey, they may have even taken the time to look at my profile or taken the time to look at the profile of whoever they're messaging. And then they still say, hey, great background. Like, can you look at my resume and see if you have any roles available for me? Or they may say, hey, I'm super impressed with your background, or I love this company. I would love to apply for the program manager role or whatever the case may be. And what happens is the person on the other side of that reads it and goes, okay, you and 8,000 other people, and you didn't even take the time to customize. Like you're not even a good fit for this. And you will be shocked at the number of people. I just got one today, and this is not, I'm sure I was just in their system. I just got a message from somebody today saying, hey, I'm really interested in XYZ role that you have. I'm qualified to work in Canada. Here's all the incredible things that I've done. And I'm sure this person was super talented, but I just looked at them and I was like, hey, I'm not in Canada and I'm not hiring for this role. So you didn't take the 2 seconds to look at me. Now, I did respond to them. Most people wouldn't take the time to respond. So what we want to do, we don't want to be like those recruiters that send the same message to 10,000 people. Instead, we customize the message to demonstrate immediately. Pretend like you only have 10 seconds to demonstrate that you can add value and that you've done your research. If you look at your message that you send to anybody and you say, yeah, I could reuse this for so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, it's a bad message. That is not a message that you should be sending out. So we are going to craft very specific messages for each of these categories. Now, I'm going to skip through a couple of these because, again, anybody who wants this, I'll share the link at the end if you don't already have it. And I want to just jump to a couple of examples that we have here. So let's scroll down to hiring managers because that's usually the ones that people care about the most. Let's see here. Actually, I'll just give you guys a bonus one real quick. Instead of scrolling to find it there. When we are reaching out to a hiring manager directly, this is one of the best converting scripts that is out there. And again, you guys will get all of this in the doc that I share later. But what we do very simply is say, once you've connected with somebody, and the way you connect with somebody, you can just send a very simple connect request message. Looking forward to connecting with you here, first name. Then the next thing that we do that is getting people interviews, not at 0.5 to 2%, this message right here converts at, we don't even troubleshoot unless it drops below 20%. So what does that mean? If you're sending out 10 messages to people, you should be hearing back from 2 of them. So what we say very specifically is, I was researching the, let's say, customer success manager role on your team. Your search for somebody who has worked on, and then we customize this based on that company's job description. Your search for somebody who has worked on X and Y, whatever that is, whatever caught your attention from the job description. Then what we do is we tie in how we have done those things over the last, let's say, 10 years, 8 years, 15 years. Over the past X number of years, I have, let's say, built, developed, and led teams of up to 8 CSMs. So this may be actually for a customer success leader role, not a customer success manager, most likely. Managed over 25 million. You actually don't even need that. Managed over 25 million in ARR while implementing effective upsell strategies, and grew ARR year over year and decreased churn. Now, if you're somebody who is looking very specifically for somebody who, if we go back to what they care about with customer success, what do recruiters and customer success, or what do recruiters and hiring managers care about in customer success roles? ARR, CSAT, churn, upsells. Cool. We know this already, and we've just hit all of those and the quantifiable impact that we've been able to make for companies. Anybody who's listening now, if you were hiring, or if you think back to when you were hiring, or if you just imagine yourself in a hiring manager's position, and you are getting a sea of messages from people who say, hey, look at my resume. Do you have any roles that I'm a good fit for? Or, hey, I really like this role. Can we talk about it? Compare that to, hey, I noticed you're looking for this. I have done this, and this. Do you think it makes sense for us to hop on a call? You're not being presumptuous. You're saying, you're even calling that out. I'm aware we don't know each other. However, I thought I would still inquire. This message, if you just screenshot this and you get really good at customizing, those 2 areas. Hey, this caught my attention. These are the 2-ish most important aspects of the role, and talk about how you've done those things. If that is all you do, you will have more interviews than you can even handle if that's what your focus is. Now, let's take it back to that example with those recruiters who, there's been some fun comments in here. When I get messages like that, I report it as spam, because screw those recruiters. Gotten, not appreciated. Gotten, yes, not appreciated, right? All of those comments that you guys just shared, that's how a lot of hiring managers feel right now. And then again, am I saying this is the world's greatest system? No, but I'm saying work with the system that we have right now. Again, unless you are beyond smart and you have this IQ where you know how to fix all of this, again, I would love to talk to you. I'd love to support you in any way that I can, but that's just not realistic to think that you are going to be the one that fixes everything. So let's just work with the system we have. And if you know, okay, I can get about 20% or more conversion rate from sending these types of messages, then all you have to do is block out an hour, maybe 2 hours a day, and send out 20, 30, 40 of those messages a day. If you're sending them all via LinkedIn, you're usually capped. I recommend, if you've never sent messages before, start at 15 per day so that LinkedIn gets used to you sending messages. And then you can usually, by the end of the week, the following week, ramp up to 30 per day. And you will have more interviews than you know what to do with. And you will have more conversations than you can even book into your calendar. And this is something we see time and time again, where like, if you really follow this process, you will set yourself up to future-proof your career. And what that means, or what I should say, is if you learn these skills and you're implementing these skills, you can future-proof your career, not because you're going to pick the perfect company that's in business for the next 150 years and always promoting you, but because you will have a skill set where you never actually have to worry about being laid off. You never actually have to worry about a company going under. You don't have to worry about any of those things, because you have cultivated these relationships that you can call on executive at company, hiring manager at company, recruiter at company, and just say, hey, I noticed you need XYZ. I've done XYZ. Here's the results of that. Do you think it makes sense to talk? And the cool part about this is And we've got some stats on this for folks who have gone through our program. The first time through, the average, I forget the exact number, I think it's 74.6 or something like that right now. Let's just say, let's overestimate here. The average the first time somebody goes through our program takes them 90 days to get a job. The second time somebody's gone through our program where they've already learned these skills, they already know how to do it, it is very common for it to take 30 days or less for them to land a job that they're really excited about with a company that they admire, where they're doing work that they find meaningful in a way that supports them being the best possible version of themselves. So when you're looking at the market and you hear the doom and gloom, you see all the clickbait, all of that stuff, and it's like, oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. If you just take a minute to step back and look at, okay, everybody else is doing this. Who do I know, or can I find anybody that has a system that's working in today's market? This is something that is working in today's market if you can take it and just test it. And one of the coolest things that I've seen, and again, this is just a testament to Gaurav and what he's built at CareerSprout. We put all of this out for free. He does free workshops all the time. We do this free coaching call once a week, and we get messages, hundreds of them, of people who say, hey, I took that script that you just gave me. Nobody had ever taught me that before. I took it, I implemented it, and it worked. Like, that's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to believe me without proof. I'm not asking you, I should have had like screenshots or something on here that show you guys some proof to get past, your cognitive biases and all of that good stuff. Oh, actually here, I do have that. Let's see, we can hack our brains here a little bit together. Let me share my screen real quick, and I will show you a couple of examples here. Perfect. This is somebody that posted in the community, a few tips that worked well for me. Outreach on LinkedIn. She was only getting interviews from referrals. Then she reached out to somebody, never met them before. They went to the same undergrad as me, but they had never met. How did I get interviews? Network and outreach. I landed interviews with 8 different companies. 3 were referrals. 4 were outreach to the hiring manager. 1 was from applying, heard back 6 weeks later. 7 out of 8 of those companies I did not apply to before getting an interview. So there we go. We even got some cognitive proof in there. So I'm going to pause there. Hopefully, and again, I only have about 45 minutes here with you guys today, so I was trying to give you the crash course there. Let me look at the messages here. Nobody has taught me to network online in this manner before, and I'm pretty smart, but never thought to do it in this way. Thank you. This is awesome. Yes, my hope is that this is something new for a lot of you that are out there that are extremely, extremely intelligent. One of our mantras that we repeat and remind our clients all the time is job search skills are not at all correlated to intelligence or you being good at your job. None of that stuff is related. Learning how to be good at a job search is just a completely different skill set than anything that you would actually do in your normal day-to-day job. I actually just shared this on LinkedIn the other day. And it was, I believe, a data analyst or a data scientist who's like, yeah, actually the things that make me really good at my job make me horrible in interviews. And that is so accurate. So these are just muscles that most of us, myself included, previously, we just weren't taught these things. And so now that you're taught, the sign of intelligence or being smart, or the definition that I love the most, is how quickly you can change your behavior based on new data, based on new information. So let me know, is this helpful for you guys? Is anybody a little bit more excited about being able to land interviews and not being part of the 0.5, 2%? Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Can you share the PDF, please? Yes, Sarah, thank you for asking that. I may have forgotten. For those of you who don't have it, this is the link that we were just referencing. Let's see here. Let me just reply to you there. It's just in a nice, easy, simple Google Doc. And then the new way to pound the pavement. Yeah, Derek, I love that. It's definitely a lot easier than pounding pavement. I will say that. That is so good, Katie. Awesome. Now, the other thing that I want to share with you guys is, if you're like me, I love reading. I absorb information and it clicks for me a lot quicker if I hear and see it as well. And so I highly recommend, if you are similar to that, we've got a free workshop. Again, this is just kudos to Gaurav. I'm going to share this. Some of you, I recognize your names. I think a few of you, I've already shared this privately, but for those of you that I haven't, this is a free workshop that I highly, highly recommend, not just watching once, but coming back and referring to this for each stage of your job search. Step one, when you're figuring out what the best role is for you. Step two, when you're building out that resume, you're building out that LinkedIn profile. Step three, look at that, balloons happen when go off when you do it well. Step three, when you're doing that outreach, and then we didn't even make it to the interviews or the salary negotiation, but in that workshop, Gaurav walks you through all of the strategic overview and then the tactical step by step. Highly, highly recommend rewatching it, and actually linked right below that is also the PDF that I just shared as well. So it's just careersprout.com. Oh, actually, it's kind of a wonky domain. Job-search-replay. Probably should have made that a little bit shorter for you guys. My apologies. But with that, I do have a couple of minutes. If there are any questions that you guys have, I have just 2-3 minutes here that I can hang on and answer them. If not, let me know if this was helpful. If there's anything that you guys would like, for those of you who are new or you're just showing up for the first time, if there's any specific topics or any specific questions that you want us to answer on these coaching calls, by all means, just let us know. These are made for you. These are designed to help be as helpful as possible for you guys. Let's see. We've got, it feels like I've tried everything. Feels like I've tried everything, and it's even harder because I'm trying to get a job out of state. If you've already tried this, you send me your stats privately and we can troubleshoot. If you haven't tried this already, and I'd be hesitant to use the word everything at any point where it's like, okay, if you haven't tried this already, I would just take a step back and be excited. It's like, okay, here's something that is different that I can now test. Again, if you have tried it and it's not working, send me your stats and I can potentially help troubleshoot. It's usually one of three things. Your targeting is off, your messaging is off, or the third thing is there's a mismatch in roles that you're targeting. Let's see, thanks. If you're very interested in the role and you don't hear back from the person, should you still apply the traditional way and or follow up with a second note? This is a great question. On my screen, it just shows LinkedIn user, so I can't see your name, but whoever asked this, thank you for asking it. I don't think I shared this earlier on. When our clients are interested in a company, let's just use Google, for example. If you are applying for a senior program manager at Google, we don't want to just reach out to one person at Google. We want to reach out to 5 senior leaders, 5 potential hiring managers. You usually don't know who the hiring manager is going to be. Sometimes executives and hiring managers have overlap, but you're usually reaching out to 5 to 10 if it's a large company, and 5 or so recruiters. So that means you're reaching out to like 10 to 15 people per company, per opportunity that you're interested in. That should be more than enough for you to get a response. Because again, what should be the response rate? At least 20%. And so that should get you 1 to 3-ish conversations going. However, a really, really important caveat to this is that, yes, we do want to follow up. Generally, it's once a week for 3 weeks. You don't need to follow up with somebody, send them more than 3 messages. You will have, if you are sending out roughly 30 per day, you will have more folks and you know what to do with, and you won't need to send a ton of follow-ups there. You'll have more conversations than you can handle. All right. Hi, I'm new here, a follower to you and interested in exploring new industries and feeling lost on what's next, potential layoffs in the talks. How do I sign up for help? Paige, I would highly recommend, I would just check out that free workshop. We've got a bit of a wait list at the moment, so I would highly, highly recommend leveraging those free resources for anybody who would like to sign up for our wait list for when we do have more spots available. And hopefully Gaurav will be back in action here soon, so he can take some of these. We can work through this wait list quicker. Here's the link to sign up for the wait list. Let me add that in over here for you guys. Wait list link. I believe that should be the right one. All right. And again, if you go through that free workshop that I just shared, you will see really quickly there's folks, actually there was a CTO that was live on that workshop that he was just implementing as Gaurav was sharing. He was implementing and he got an interview right on the spot. So like, please, please, please do not sleep on that free interview. I know we don't have enough spots to help everybody, and we are fairly selective about the cohorts that we cultivate. So please leverage those free resources if we can't get to you right away. I don't want you sitting and waiting to go through the wait list. I would love for you to be taking action, and I would love to get an email or a private message from you that says, hey, cancel my spot on the wait list. I just got an offer I'm super excited about. Nothing makes me happier than when we get those. Where's the link to download the PDF? I just shared it right up above. I think there's a bit of a lag there. But the link to get the PDF, it's also at the bottom of that job search replay, that free workshop. I'm going to put that right below as well. Oh, looks like somebody shared it. It says LinkedIn user, so I'm not sure. Oh, Sarah, thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Thank you, Katie. I see it as business development and sales. Yes, that's a perfect explanation for it. That is exactly what it is. Let's see, Paige, thank you. You are welcome. Rowan, at the moment, we do not work with anybody outside of the US. However, we have had a ton of international folks, again, leverage those free resources. If you are in Canada, well, actually, if you need recommendations, we do have a couple of coaches that we really trust that we can recommend for certain countries or who specialize in different things. You can just shoot me a message there. And I think that we're coming up on time here. I believe I got to everybody's questions. Let me just scroll through and double check this. Yeah, I think that's everybody. So if you guys have any follow-ups afterwards, I do try to block out some time each week to answer the messages that come in. If I miss you and you haven't heard from me in a week, please do send me a follow-up. That means that you were accidentally marked as unread. I am not ignoring you ever. Unless you say something really rude, then I am probably ignoring you. That happens every so often. So if you guys have anything, just let us know, and I will see you guys next week.